There was a time when justice came in under 22 minutes.
She's a real judge with over 15 years of courtroom experience.
This is my courtroom. I ask the question.
Including commercial breaks. A time when a small claims dispute about a chewed-up couch or an unpaid loan did not require 3 lawyers, 2 appeals, and a Netflix documentary. No, all it required was 1 woman, 1 raised eyebrow, and a sentence that hit harder than student loan debt. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. This was daytime television's Roman Colosseum, and at the center of it stood Judge Judy.
Damage.
Order, all rise.
Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, coming home from school meant 2 things: a microwave snack and watching strangers get verbally dismantled by a 5'2" grandmother in a lace collar. It was simple. It was efficient. It was strangely satisfying. You watched someone lie badly. She caught them in 12 seconds. Boom, case closed.
And you were charging her a nominal rent, a couple $100s a month?
Yes.
Now you're suing her for $5,000.
Yes.
Gavel down, moral lesson delivered. We loved it. We want clarity. We want accountability. We want someone to say, "You're wrong, sit down." And she did, every single afternoon. But here's the thing about fast justice packaged for mass consumption. Eventually, you start wondering whether the courtroom is real or just really well lit, because somewhere between the iconic eye rolls and the headlines about her $47 million salary, something shifted. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Before she was a syndicated empire, before the memes, before the $47 million headlines.
Right before I moved out of the house.
How much does she still owe you for the phone?
About $1,500.
Yeah.
Judith Sheindlin was a real family court judge in Manhattan. She studied law at New York Law School, built her career in New York's family court system, and in 1982 was appointed by Mayor Ed Koch. Later, she became supervising judge in Manhattan's family court structure. This part matters, because the no-nonsense persona wasn't invented for television. It was forged in custody battles, child support disputes, real families unraveling in real time.
Together for a relatively short period of time? How long?
About 6
From
months.
June to end of September.
The impatience wasn't branding. It was survival in a system drowning in chaos. Then in 1993, everything shifted. A newspaper profile, followed by a now famous 60-minute segment titled Law and Disorder, turned her into national television material. She was sharp, blunt, visibly irritated by inefficiency. In a media landscape that loved authority with personality, she was gold. Producers saw what the courts could not monetize. Court TV already existed.
Nothing came up about the $400 until I called him about, I think it was this past February.
Arbitration shows had come and gone, but they didn't need another courtroom. They needed a character, a moral hammer, someone who could turn conflict into verdict in under 10 minutes and make it entertaining. So in 1996, Judge Judy launched into syndication. But this was not traditional court. It was binding arbitration dressed like one. Litigants signed contracts agreeing to accept her ruling. The show covered payouts. Travel was handled, logistics streamlined. It looked like court. It sounded like court.
Mr. Dursula, do you think your son loves you?
I don't know.
But structurally, it was television first, and it worked. At its peak, the show reportedly pulled in 9 to 10 million daily viewers. It became a syndication juggernaut, reliable, repeatable, wildly profitable. Judge Judy wasn't just a judge. She was a format, a machine that sold swift justice in a world tired of waiting for it.
And I removed the guns at that time. After I removed the guns, a 4th attempt was made.
And for a long time, that fantasy felt real. For a long time, Judge Judy felt untouchable. The formula was airtight. A plaintiff walks in angry. A defendant walks in overconfident. Judy listens for about 9 seconds, detects the lie, and detonates it.
But it's gonna be hard to get that kind of money. I mean, I'm not Judge Judy.
Hi, I'm Judge Judy. I get paid $45 million a year to yell at people who have nothing.
Audience applauds internally. Justice served before dinner. But cracks do not begin with explosions. They begin with questions. The first uncomfortable question was simple. Is this actually court? Technically, no. The show operates as binding arbitration. Litigants sign contracts agreeing to let Sheindlin decide the outcome, and the program handles the financial mechanics behind the scenes. It looks like a courtroom. It feels like a courtroom. It uses the language of a courtroom. But legally, it is television arbitration wrapped in mahogany furniture.
And I was flexible and had second thoughts, and I thought, jeepers.
For years, that distinction did not matter to viewers, but to legal scholars and critics, it absolutely did. Academic commentary warned that syndicated court shows borrow the look and feel of real courts in a way that may shape public perception of how judges are supposed to behave. Loud, opinionated, impatient.
Life is over.
Yes.
And I don't think any parent would want that for their child.
Entertaining. In real courtrooms, judges are not supposed to roast you like a Comedy Central special, and that tension grew. In 2002, former television judge Joseph Wapner publicly criticized Judy's abrasive style, calling it discourteous and harmful to the image of the judiciary. At the time, it sounded like professional jealousy, old guard versus new queen of daytime. But the critique lingered. Was this justice, or was it humiliation as entertainment?
I can't help you. I'm not going into the reason, because that was for your last lawyer to figure out, madam.
Then came the mechanics. In 2015, reporting highlighted recruitment letters explaining how cases were selected and why appearing on the show was attractive. Travel costs covered, appearance fees, binding arbitration instead of drawn-out small claims court. Suddenly, the moral universe looked slightly more transactional. The show preached personal responsibility.
But I would suggest you get this loan out of his name as expeditiously as possible.
I can't do it without him.
But it also paid you to show up. And then there was the infamous fake case. In 2010, a bizarre dispute involving a dead cat and a smashed television aired. Later, participants reportedly admitted they fabricated the case just to get on TV. The internet, already evolving into its meme-heavy adolescence, devoured this story. Wait, so people can just invent drama? Even if most cases were real, the incentive structure suddenly looks suspicious.
It was
That was not intelligent. Because if the electricity was off in the apartment, it was off for you and your mother.
Exposure, a trip, paid costs, a chance to be immortalized in YouTube compilations titled Judge Judy Destroys Entitled Teen. The moral authority began to wobble, but the true earthquake was not about fake cats. It was about money. At the height of the show's power, reports placed Shandlin's salary at around $47 million per year. $47 million for small claims arbitration. In isolation, that number is impressive. In context, it became ammunition. Profit-sharing partners sued CBS and big ticket television, arguing that salary structures effectively wiped out profits on paper, impacting their contractual participation. The language and coverage was dramatic. Wipe out. Fabricated finances. A financial chess match behind the curtain. The counter-narrative was equally dramatic. Courts later concluded there was no evidence the salary was negotiated in bad faith, and that given her central importance to the show's success, the compensation was not unreasonable.
Dear, somebody asked me for my social security number. Bird, could I have your social security number?
Yeah, right.
Translation: without Judy, there is no empire. Legally defensible, morally fascinating. Because here's the irony. The show built its brand on telling people to take responsibility for their actions. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, a multi-year profit war unfolded over how much the stars should be paid. And then came the workplace allegations. In the late 2000s, former employees filed lawsuits alleging discrimination and toxic work culture. Claims included age discrimination and concerns about racial selection practices. Shandlin herself was not named as a defendant in those early suits, but the headlines did not care about nuance. Fast forward to 2021. Business Insider published an investigation based on interviews with former employees and court records describing allegations of racism.
Get my own mortgage. I don't want to be part of him at all. But after 6 years, you should be free from each other.
Sexual harassment, and abusive behavior within the production environment. Executive producer Randy Douthit denied the allegations through attorneys, calling them false and unreliable. Again, legally contested, publicly messy. And here's where the collapse stops being about one scandal and starts being about accumulation. No single mega scandal canceled Judge Judy overnight. There was no explosive moment where sponsors fled and the lights went dark. Instead, it was erosion. A drip of lawsuits, a headline about $47 million, a fake case that went viral, academic criticism about misleading courtroom aesthetics, investigative reports about workplace culture, each one individually survivable. Together, they create a narrative shift. Add to that the highly publicized tensions with CBS, as the original run ended in 2021.
He was locked out.
Shh. If you shout out one more time, you're gone.
Okay.
including public comments about feeling disrespected in programming decisions. What once looked like a stable syndication kingdom now looked like corporate divorce. The show ended after 25 seasons, but not because it failed. It ended because economics, library value, and platform strategy made more sense elsewhere. And that might be the most telling part of all. Judge Judy did not collapse in a blaze of disgrace. It evolved, it migrated to streaming, it rebranded, it expanded into the so-called Judy universe. But culturally, something had changed. The internet was no longer just laughing at litigants. It was analyzing contracts. It was reposting investigative journalism. It was questioning the premise. The fantasy of swift, morally pure justice began to compete with a new narrative. This is television. This is business. This is branding. And once viewers start seeing the strings, the puppet show never feels the same. So here we are. The gavel still drops, the eyebrow still rises, the catchphrases still circulate on TikTok like sacred scripture.
Boyfriend did nothing.
He did nothing, it's true.
Would hang around with you all day.
Yeah, he'd be around all day.
Okay.
And yet something feels manufactured, because what once felt raw now feels optimized. In its original run, Judge Judy sold urgency. Cases move fast because they had to. Syndication thrives on rhythm. 9 to 10 million daily viewers at its peak weren't tuning in for nuance. They wanted impact. A lie exposed in 10 seconds, a verdict before dinner. It felt chaotic in a controlled way, like you'd stumbled into a real small claims courtroom on a random Tuesday. Now it feels like content architecture. With the move to streaming and Judy Justice under Amazon's umbrella, the show didn't shrink, it scaled. Cleaner lighting, sharper cameras, expanded cast, more polish. It looks bigger. And that's the problem. Justice used to feel like a personality. Now it feels like intellectual property. On broadcast TV, it felt immediate. You didn't choose it. It just appeared in your afternoon. In the streaming era, it sits in a content library, waiting, autoplaying. Justice doesn't feel urgent when it's one tile in a carousel between crime docs and cooking shows. Once something becomes a tile, it stops feeling dangerous. The rhythm is predictable now. Plaintiff talks, Judy interrupts, sarcastic aside, ruling delivered, repeat. The algorithm loves repetition. Mystique does not. Even the controversies feel absorbed into the brand.
You had May, June, July, August, September, October,
So I was gonna come back every month?
Workplace allegations resurface. Arbitration debates cycle online. The $47 million salary still circulates as shorthand for excess. But none of it destabilizes the empire. It becomes part of the lore. Scandal doesn't threaten the machine, it feeds it. Judge Judy once symbolized moral clarity in a messy world. Now she symbolizes brand durability in a messy media economy. The show isn't collapsing, it's optimized. But optimization kills mystique. When justice becomes a franchise, when authority becomes meme content, when courtroom gravitas becomes production design, something hollow creeps in. It's not unwatchable, it's just no longer electric. There's no sense that anything truly risky is happening. Everyone walks in knowing it's television first. The arbitration is structured. The exposure is part of the deal.
Participants sign a waiver agreeing to accept her decision and not to pursue the case anywhere else.
The illusion thins. And once viewers see the strings, the contracts, the streaming strategy, the expanded Judy universe, the raised eyebrow stops feeling like divine judgment and starts feeling like a performance cue. It's justice as comfort food, efficient, reliable, perfectly packaged, but no longer dangerous, just content. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Judge Judy did not fail. It adapted. And maybe that is more unsettling, because the fantasy almost worked. For decades, millions of people tuned in to watch a version of justice that felt swift, decisive, morally clear. A world where nonsense was punished instantly, where excuses evaporated under a raised eyebrow, where responsibility meant something. We want that world. We still do. We want someone to cut through bureaucracy. We want someone to call out stupidity. We want someone to say enough. And for a long time, she delivered. But the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes that Judge Judy was never just about justice. It was about format efficiency.
They actually are final.
It's your fault. You hit him. You have to pay for that. That's all. The counterclaim's dismissed.
Arbitration contracts, salary negotiations that reach $47 million a year. Profit-sharing lawsuits, streaming migrations, brand expansion into a courtroom universe. The robe was real. The disputes were often real. The arbitration was legally binding, but the ecosystem was always television. And maybe that is the final twist. Judge Judy did not jump the shark. The audience grew up. We started asking questions about workplace culture, about what arbitration actually means, about whether humiliation is the same thing as accountability. The show still exists in some form. The clips still circulate, the catchphrases still land. but the magic is thinner now. So here's the real verdict. Was Judge Judy ever about justice, or was it about our desire to watch someone else lose?
He's not your roommate, he's the father of your 2 children, and you were starting a business together. Whether it worked or didn't work, goodbye.
If you enjoyed this courtroom therapy session, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and tell me which cultural institution should be cross-examined next.